I'm Tony from Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do the water drop effect. So I am using 3 different types of moulds. These mirrors are from Amazon. I will drop a link in the description below. I'm just taking off the front covers, using this mould without any resin in the bottom because I don't want that lip around the edge. So this fits in perfectly inside the mould so that it doesn't allow the resin to get underneath. So with the other 2, I'm just going to use the Let's Resin Fast Cure so it can demould in 4 hours. Just pouring the resin into the mould, making sure that the bottom is completely covered. I have only filled it up halfway at the minute. So I'm just making sure it's in all the gaps and the edges. Spraying it with some isopropyl alcohol and then popping my mirrors in. So I'm just pressing down to make sure there's no bubbles underneath and that the resin just covers the mirror. And the same with the other one. Firmly pressing it down. So I'm just adding the rest of the resin, so topping up the mould. About 3/4 of the way. I decided to drop a lake colour pigment into the circle one, just to see if that gives a better effect. And that you can see the difference between a coloured resin and just the clear. So just topping them all up, and then I decide, right, I'm going to pop the colour in. Yeah, so I mixed the green in to a little bit more resin and then topped that one up and just mixed it in. Just a bit of an afterthought so you could see it different colours. So I'm just mixing it in, making sure that there's no streaks and getting rid of all the bubbles. And then you leave it to cure. So the time that you leave it to cure depends on the resin you're using. Because this is the fast cure 4-hour demould, I left it for about, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 hours, just short of, till it's soft. So like you would use if you were making a bowl, so you can still bend it as such, but it's still got to keep it the shape. Now if you try and do the next stage and it goes back to sort of loses its shape, then just wait another 10-15 minutes and then give it another go. So I'm waiting for it to cure, and like I say, it was about 1.5 hours. So here it is. So here's the trick. So I've got some Vaseline and one of the little finger gloves. You can use just a normal pair of gloves. And I'm making sure there's lots on my finger. Now, I know this seems strange and you can wipe it off afterwards, but you can see it's just making the grooves that you need. So slowly with your finger, making sure that there's lots of Vaseline on it, because the minute there's no Vaseline on there, it becomes really difficult to move. And just making circular motions. Right the way around, depending on the size of your coaster to how many ripples that you'll have. So I did try this and then left it and then come back about 10-15 minutes later because it lost its shape a little bit. So I'm just going in practically down to the mirror. The one in the middle goes all the way down to the bottom, and you can see it starting to take shape. So I do the same with all 3, and I've sped this one up for you just a little bit, so that you don't have to watch it all. So here's the green one, and again making the central bit right the way down to the the glass. I did try using a tool to see if that made a difference, a thinner line rather than my finger, but it was easier just to use my finger. But you can see there's 3 ripples. Now this one with the lake seems to really give the water effect. So just keep going over and over and over until I've got it. So you can see where I've gone right down to the mirror. Now there might be other ways to do this, but this is the only way I can sort of figure out how to do it. There might be other videos online. I try not to go onto YouTube too much. So I wait till that's fully cured. Now we're going to do the water droplets in the middle. Now for this we need UV resin. So I've got a little plastic cup and I'm just pouring a circle right the way around the edge of the cup. I'm using Diction's high viscosity UV resin. You can see just a ring around, and then I'm getting a toothpick or a little tool and I'm just going to scrape up the edges all the way around to make the little water droplets. Now if you cure this and you realise that there's not enough lines going up, then you can go back in, drop more resin and make more. So to get this out of the cup, so I'm curing it, to get this out of the cup I used an X-Acto knife, little craft knife, just to cut down the side of the cup and then peeled it out. And you can see on the one I've just dropped a few little petals to look like leaves on the water. Just cutting the side of this cup. It is a little bit tricky to try and get it out. You can use the silicone cups, anything really that's round that the resin won't stick to, you can use. I have tried using a silicone cap, but this seems to give the perfect shape and sits well right in the middle. Now there is a short on my channel where I make little beads that I use for little water droplets for the centre. That's a Daniel Cooper technique of using shower gel and UV resin. I'll put the link to that video in below. So I'm just going to UV resin this to the centre of the coaster. And that gives the splash effect. So you can use any type of UV resin, but I do find the high viscosity helps to keep the shape more. The Diction one comes in a pack of 3, a high, a low and a medium viscosity UV resin. So great for doming projects and little bits like this. So I cured it for about a minute and a half. This is the next one. You can see it's taking its shape. And there we have it. They're perfect. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. It doesn't cost anything. I've been Tony from George's Gorgeous Gifts and hope you've enjoyed this video. Happy crafting. See you soon.